feel comfortable. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. So if you don't feel comfortable recording, being in this recording, you can just turn off your camera, and also you can use the chat to introduce yourself if you don't want to speak. So my name is Sadiq Shahad once again from Tamale, Ghana, Executive Director and co-founder for the Dagbani Wikimedia User Group. I'm also the community facilitator for the Wikimedia Language Diversity Hub. I work to support 5 language communities in Ghana, namely Dagbani, Groni, Mori, Usal, and Dagar Wikipedia projects. So I have my co-facilitator, Denny, and we have the abstract Wikipedia team, Denny and Luca, who will be taking us through the rundown of what we need to know about Wikipedia and abstract Wikipedia and Wikifunctions, and generally the ins and outs and how communities can be involved. So I'll hand over to Denny to introduce himself, and then pass it on to Luca and Denny to take us through. So I'll turn off my camera and I may exit this meeting because I have an emergency, and Denny will take over. Thank you. So over to you, Denny.
Right. For a particular group, once I yes, everyone's a mass production.
Yeah, Tuba, can you mute yourself? Yeah, Tuba, you can try to mute them. Yeah, thank you. I will also make Denny a co-host. Are you with us? I think Denny exited. Let me just try to make. So please introduce yourself in the chat, who you are, where you are joining from, so that we'll save enough time. Denny is back. Denny, can you introduce yourself and then allow presenters to introduce themselves, Denny and Luca. Okay. Denny, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can hear.
All right. So all participants
can hear me?
Yes. Please feel free to type in the chat if you want to introduce yourself, where are you joining from, and who you are, what you've been working on. Okay, then I will just hand it over to Luca to introduce themselves, and Luca and Denny to introduce themselves. Then we can kickstart. So please feel free to still use the chat to introduce yourself, who you are, where you are joining from, and then Denny will take over.
Sure, I'll go first. Hello, everyone. I'm Luca Martinelli, also known as Sannita, and I'm the community liaison for Wikifunctions and Abstract Wikipedia. Basically, I'm the one that takes care of all the things that go on with the community of Wikifunctions, and I'm the main point of contact in case you need to talk to the developing team. And I leave it to Denny.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Denny Vrandečić. I'm the head of special projects at the Wikimedia Foundation. I'm very honored to be here and to be invited. Greetings. I'm seeing in the chat all the people introducing themselves from different places. Hi, Jumbo from Nairobi, Gemma from Wales, Robert from Ghana, Gilbert from Burundi, Firmin from DRC, Daniel from Ghana, Paul from Ghana, Nano for the Arabic communities, Andy Khan from Nigeria. So many people from so many different places. This is really amazing. And I really love the diversity here. I have prepared, I live in Germany for about now half a year. We just moved here from the US, my family and I. And so back in the same time zone, which is really nice. I have prepared a little bit of a few slides for introducing the project, but we can also totally make this to be whatever you want it to be. This is your hour. If you have questions, please feel free to ask. If you have if you want to know things. Otherwise, I thought if there are no questions popping up, I'll just start with the presentation, go then into demonstrating Wikifunctions itself and how these things will tie in together. So I still can't share my screen. I would ask one of the hosts to actually allow me to share the screen. Otherwise, I'll just talk like this, but I think it's helpful if I have a few slides up and later also to show the thing.
Vrandečić, can you make Denny a host? Vrandečić.
Yes, it's possible. Let me do that.
Thank you.
From
So here we go. I can now share the screen. And here we are. So Abstract Wikipedia's goal is to allow sharing more knowledge in more languages. Just to make it very, very clear, if you have questions, if anything is unclear, please ask immediately. Raise your hand, type in the chat. Feel free to interrupt me. You don't have to wait until I'm done with the presentation. So, as I said, our goal is to allow for sharing more knowledge in more languages, for everyone to contribute in their language, but make the content available in all languages. So, as a bit of an introduction, the goal of the Wikimedia movement is to imagine a world where everyone can share in the sum of all knowledge. And as you know, Wikipedia has today more than 300 language editions, and with overall more than 60 million articles in the different languages. But the problem is that there isn't just like one Wikipedia in reality. It is very wrong to assume, there's one Wikipedia. In reality, there are more than those. There are more than 300 small projects, and they are all independent of each other. If you write an article in one language or change an article in a language, there's nothing that automatically propagates the knowledge to other languages. And because of that, also the different Wikipedia language editions are very different in size and contribution. The English Wikipedia is still by far the largest Wikipedia version, with more than 300,000 monthly contributors and almost 7 million articles. English is a huge language with more than 1 billion speakers, and more than 900 million unique devices access English Wikipedia. We have here two numbers for the numbers for two African languages. One is Hausa, which has about 200 monthly contributors and more than 50,000 articles. Pretty big project itself, and more than 80 million speakers. It's a huge language, and more than 200,000 people access Hausa Wikipedia. And Dagbani has about 40 monthly contributors and more than 10,000 articles by now. It has about 1 million speakers. One of the smaller languages, well, not worldwide. Worldwide, it's still a pretty big language with 1 million speakers, but yes, and about 30,000 people accessing the Dagbani Wikipedia. And one of the interesting things is that you might now think, oh yeah, English Wikipedia is basically has all the content in the world, all the knowledge and so on. But this is not true, not even close. The 6 million articles that we have in English, for example, we've compared with the articles that we have in German, about half of that, close to 3 million articles. The overlap is about half of the German articles, which means that half of the German articles are not represented in English Wikipedia at all. There's so much knowledge in the German Wikipedia which is not available in the English Wikipedia. And that is true for basically all of our 300 language editions. All of them have knowledge which is not available in the different language, in the other language editions. We have a lot of local politicians, for example, which are only available in a single language, be it Spanish, for example, for a lot of South American politicians, be it also many African languages, and so on. So we have a lot of knowledge which is not available to many people because they are only available in one specific language, which is sometimes more and sometimes less understandable for the people. Across the Wikipedias, there's also, we have a lot of the same work, right? We want to create and update articles. We want to control changes, manage the flow between of the edits coming in, welcome the newbies, building a community, reworking content to be consistent and high quality, curating the content for readers, and agreeing way forward as a community. A lot of these things have to be, I'm also having a thank you. Friday's asking if he's the only one getting a background echoing. I'm also having some background echoing. I'm not sure how to help with that. Sorry. I think user NK, if you could mute, yeah, that might have helped. Thank you. Okay. So there's a lot of stuff that the community has to do for themselves, but there's also a lot of knowledge, a lot of which can be made available from a centralized place and be made available in the different languages. So, and here machines can really help us to write a lot of those articles with appropriate conditions. And we'll get to this during the
Hi,
talk.
Luca.
Yeah, is that a question? Okay. One of the main goals that Abstract Wikipedia is aiming for is to continue this tradition of Wikipedia to allow for an accessible edit button so that people can still change the content in Wikipedia, that they can still change what is being displayed in those languages. So this is why, for example, we're not just going for a language model, and you can't change anymore the content that is being displayed. You can't fix it if something's wrong, and you can't propagate it to the other languages. We're taking a very different approach. But we are currently still pretty far away from a world where everyone can share in the sum of our knowledge. So our first step is to introduce Wikifunctions. What is Wikifunctions? It is a Wikimedia project like Wikidata, Wikisource, Wikipedia, and the others, and everyone can contribute and use it. The goal is to collaboratively create and maintain a library of code functions in order to support the Wikimedia project and beyond in the world's natural and programming languages. So what does this mean? Language text is full of functions. So for example, if you think about measurements in recipes, you might know that a US cup measures about 236 milliliters or something like this. So you have here a function that calculates a cup to milliliters. Or you want to have age calculations. She was 15 years old when the war broke out. Or grammatical forms. In Esperanto, the accusative plural of hundo is hundoin. And similar. So all of these are functions that can be then used in order to build your Wikipedia articles. Just give an example from Africa. This is a function that, given a character, tells you if in the Igbo language it is a vowel or not. So it has the check implemented. You can enter a character and get then the answer back. Or so in Wikifunctions we have more than 2,000 functions right now. And we'll just take a look at how functions look like. So this is a very simple function for add two numbers, integers. So these are whole numbers. So here on the left-hand side, we see there's a box for different labels, descriptions. And the idea is that just like in Wikidata, you can have labels in multiple languages. You can have aliases for searching, and it's freely editable in all the languages so that we can actually use Wikifunctions in different languages. On the right-hand side, there's an input section at the top of the functions that allows you to run it and get an output. For this function, you can manually input 2 numbers, and then the run function gives you the results of the addition. I mean, it gives 7 and 3, and you get 10 back as an answer. Below the input function, we have the implementation sections, which list the possible implementations that we currently have, the available implementations. They can be in different programming languages. In this case, it's pretty simple. It's like in Python and JavaScript, but it's also a composition, which means that we're combining existing functions together in order to get here the functionality out of it. We'll get to this a bit later. And then we have a section with tests. So they have different implementations, so they have different values, and they make sure that the results are being correct for the implementations that we have. We can see here a few of them fail actually in the existing implementation. Most of the time it's timeouts or other technical issues that might fail currently. We are working on improving that. So this is the implementation in Python. It looks very, very simple. It's just like a plus here. Here's the implementation in JavaScript. It's the same. It's basically the same thing here. More complex implementations will require more complex code. Also, as it happens with functions, labels and descriptions of implementations are freely editable, so you can enter here also labels and make them accessible in different languages. A more interesting case of implementation is composition. Let's come to this one. Composition is not a programming language, but rather it combines existing functions in the library, usually more basic ones, together to achieve the goal of the given function. Now, one thing about composition is, since it's made up of other functions in the system, and each function can have labels in multiple languages, just as in Wikidata, we can actually also read this function in another language, here, for example, Italian. But it's not just reading it in Italian. You can also write the function in Italian. For many languages, this is the first time that you will be able to read and write functions without needing to know English as a prerequisite. So we're really looking forward to have this feature be used, particularly for the language functions, like we had, for example, earlier seen the Igbo vowel one or the great Hausa words and so on, because here we expect that the set of people who know English, who know how to program, who know the language well enough to actually create those things is pretty small. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible and have as few requirements as possible in order to write those functions and the implementations. What can I do with Wiki functions? So what you already have is you can create functions, implementations, test cases. We have different kinds of types: Boolean, strings, lists, numbers, signs, more. We have dates since recently and floats. You can call Wikidata like themes in a function, and you can call tools that for success, I would like to ask you to please mute. Okay, thank you. What is coming up soon is that we will enable the calling of functions to be embedded within Wikipedia articles. And this is probably the thing that would be really interesting for the community to have that. So basically, you can, inside of a Wikipedia article, call a function and have the result being displayed in the article, and therefore it keeps being calculated and being up to date. And the other thing is to use more of a Wikidata item in a function. To give one example, this is the module H on the English Wikipedia. And it's a really big and complex module. It's written in Lua, and it allows you to calculate the age of a person given an inputted birth date and other parameters. So we have this module available in 93 different languages. But how is it really implemented? So the thing is that on English Wikipedia, the module is periodically maintained and updated in case of need, and the documentation is kept up to date with the changes. It's a widely used module on English Wikipedia, and a lot of people are keeping an eye on it to make sure that it's working, that it's correct, that the documentation is up to date, and so on. But if you go to different languages, like for example here in the Dagbani Wikipedia, we see that the module was imported in 2021 and then basically never updated. Documentation is quite non-existent, especially in Dagbani, and users who want to use this module actually must know to learn English first, and they must know how to read the documentation on English Wikipedia. And again, there's a possibility that documentation refers to a more updated version of the module because it's a documentation on the English Wikipedia for the current English module and not for the Dagbani module, which has been copied here 4 years ago. And the situation complicates with every other version of Wikipedia. We have sometimes different names for the module. In many it's called H, even though it's an English word, but we might have actually the name localized. And there are many different names for the parameters, meaning that you cannot freely copy and paste from one language edition to the another. Each module is individually maintained, some written from scratch, some copied from arbitrary versions and then forked, and sometimes changes to the module in one language is being pushed to another language. But it's all manual work and to try to keep those up to date. And this could change dramatically when Wikifunctions will be able to transclude the H function from Wikifunctions. It will be universally accessible by all Wikimedia projects, and not only with those who imported the module, who copy and pasted it from one of the other language editions, and it will be maintained and updated in a single place in Wikifunctions instead of a plurality of places. So instead of copy and pasting this thing to many different language editions, you will have it once, you can update it once, and you can use it and be sure that you're using the most up-to-date version of it. Wikifunctions currently has more than 2,000 functions available, with more than 3,000 implementations and 6,000 tests for those functions. So Wikifunctions are in general much better tested than most of the module implementations or most of the Wikipedias by far in comparison. So we have a number of quality assurance workflows in place, including, for example, the fact that we have several implementations for our functions, that we have the test cases for our functions, that we have documentations, and so on. So all of this, having those functions available, leads us to our vision of the future of Wikifunctions, which is abstract Wikipedia. The goal of abstract Wikipedia is to allow more people to share in more knowledge in more languages. And this is done by allowing contributors to create and maintain language-independent content, which can be used to generate natural language text in many languages, and starting from functions stored in Wikifunctions and data stored in Wikidata. So we have the content of the articles being only written once, being updated once. So if there's, for example, an article and you go and change and you update a fact in it in Hausa, then this change will be in the abstract content and therefore made available to all the other languages using this edit, which means that your contribution, even though it's been in Hausa, can be read in Japanese, can be read in Dagbani, can be read in Esperanto immediately, basically. So we are working on basic natural language functions. In order to reach our visions of abstract Wikipedia, we need users to create language functions that deal with the peculiarities of natural language. We already have a lot of those basic functions. It can, for example, create plurals of nouns. We have those for English, German, Korean, Igbo, Hausa, or more complicated functions. It can output complete sentences in each language, given a particular input. In this case, we are creating a basic sentence about someone being born in a particular place. So we enter here the values, and we get in the sentence, Albert Einstein was born in Ulm, for example. We will start gently with our natural language generation. With the proper consensus of the Wikidata community, we will, I would like to ask the Dagbani Wikimedia user group to, unless you have a question in that case, please unmute and ask. We will start gently, as I said, with the consensus of the Wikidata community. We will propose to use our functions to generate Wikidata item descriptions, relieving the communities from a tedious task that can be accomplished most of the time automatically by reading the data already present in the item. Of course, without prejudice to the possibility to use that automatically generated description as a base for a more complete human-made description. So you can also just use this and thing. But a lot of things here that we see here, the different languages, Nigerian Public University, Universität in Nigeria, Universität in Nigeria, and so on. A lot of these is basically the same information in different languages, and we could have one abstract representation saying that the University of Lagos is described as a university in Nigeria, and create that sentence in Wikifunctions and use that for all the descriptions, for example, if the community so wants to. The vision really is that those functions combined together could create prose, whole articles basically, to create complete sentences, to create paragraphs based on Wikifunctions, language functions, and the Wikidata data about a subject that in turn can be used by Wikipedia communities to generate placeholder articles when an article is missing, or as a starting point for the generation of new articles. This decision will be left to the discretion of the Wikimedia communities, of course. And what we see then, for example, is that if you change one fact in Wikidata, for example, when did Marie Curie, in this case, received the Nobel Prize in Chemistry, it will be changed automatically in all the languages that are generated from the content. Because, again, the whole idea is that we have the content in one place, updated there, and then we can read it in all the languages that participate. And this is what we are building. We have Wikidata with the actual ground facts, for example, the place of birth for Albert Einstein. We have the functions, Wikifunctions, where we have, for example, a function that generates a text out of this, a sentence out of this. And then in Wikipedia, we can display where there is lack of data, where there is a gap currently, the sentence that is being generated by the Wikifunctions function. And all of these are controlled by the communities and can be worked on by the communities. We don't have here anything that is like automatically put on top of the Wikipedias, but it's rather that everything is being remains in the control of the community and can be edited at any point. So let's take one look at an example. One function that we've been working on in the last few weeks is the so-called intro for year function. So what we get here is we enter a year, like for example, 2025, the current year that has just started like 3 weeks ago. We say we want this sentence in English, we want the intro in English, and what it does, it generates the text that is literally the intro for the article for 2025 in the English Wikipedia. So we see here it says 2025 and then the Roman numbers. Was a common year starting on a Wednesday. It should be an is, but there we have. Year starting on a Wednesday of the Gregorian calendar, the 2025th year of the Common Era and assignations, 25th year of the third millennium, and so on. And now we can just switch the language from English, for example, to Turkish, and we get the same description with the same content in Turkish because we have this function there. So we can switch over the language. We can do the same thing into other languages. We currently are, for example, have a work in progress in Dagbani, where we get this sentence up here, displaying what we currently have for the Dagbani for the year example. This is for 2023, but you know what I mean. So the idea is really that we have to enable access to more languages, to the sum of all human languages, and have an edit button for the whole thing. So Nikki is pointing out very well that there is a synchronizer tool to keep modules between different wikis which is completely correct, and it's good that it exists. It would be a shame to have to do this all manually. It reminds me of the situation before Wikidata introduced the wiki and the site links there, where a lot of the wiki links were basically done with bots, with tools to help with that, which we fortunately could get rid of mostly. I would like that tools like Synchronizer won't be necessary in the future anymore. We'll see where we get. So, and this is now showing the actual Wikifunctions page. I hope that we change over. So this is for the creating the introduction for year in English. So we can enter here anything like 1996, for example. We run the function, and it tells us that this was a common year. It was a leap year, actually, starting on a Monday of the Gregorian calendar and so on. We have the same thing available in other languages, so we can change here for another year. Anyone have a favorite year? No idea. And see that in Turkish. Unfortunately, I don't understand that in Turkish, so I can't really speak for the quality of this text. But the idea is that if something's wrong here, you can indeed go into the implementation and change it and get it fixed, basically, in order to do this. So it's not like a model that you can't access in any way and have no access to the data. So Dagbani is still a work in process. I can't demonstrate it right now because the function is not connected, and I didn't want to just do it for this example. But it looks already like it's a good start for this, and it still needs a little bit of work to get fixed.